thick layer of coal dust covers the furnace, coloring it pitch black.
Looks like it. Looks like an old central furnace used to heat the building. It's connected to the chimney. No one has used it in ages. No signs of any recent fire. Only dead rats.
It's dark and grimy here. In the darkness you can hear chatter. It's coming from above. A voice or several voices talking to each other. Near the smoke chamber, upstairs.
What are you doing? Wait, really? We should investigate, see if someone's upstairs.
A lush layer of coal now covers your skin, sinking into the wrinkles. Your hands look ancient. Maybe you could paint something with this coal. Leave a cave painting for future archaeologists. No, that would be stupid.
You're right. The rooms do look like they're connected. But malignant entities don't exist. At least not the supernatural kind.
Always has to be the skeptic, this man. A hollow ring echoes through the furnace. Your toe hurts. You see a terrifying ice bear with a strange compartment in its belly. The door is covered in frost and the bear's eyes are glowing red. The bear looks oddly realistic. Is it taxidermy? The lieutenant doesn't answer. His eyes are glued to the animal. A sharp slice of light shines out from its mysterious belly door. A gust of freezing cold air rushes to greet you. You hear a low grumble as the bear regulates itself. This is the inside of a refrigerator. The lieutenant takes a peek inside. His hand has found the holster of his gun.
Of course, just a giant ice bear-shaped fridge. Let's take a look inside.
The shelves are empty. All you see are crumpled ice cream wrappers with the brand name, Revachol Ice City. A handwritten note has been attached to the door. The fridge is huge. You pocket the note and the little fridge magnets keeping it on the door. A friendly cartoon bear smiles back at you from a glossy cellophane wrapper. It looks nothing like the fridge.
Good question. It looks like an ice cream fridge. I know. What an unfortunate marketing choice. What is even worse, the bear is still costing them money to this day.
The fridge buzzes with energy. The electricity bill on this thing must be catastrophic. A few bricks have fallen off, revealing a compartment behind the wall. It's too dark to see in.
Seems like an old bunker from the revolutionary period. Look at all those rifles. Must be an old weapons cache. There is, yes. And there also appears to be something inside the hole. Interesting. Do you want to take a look?
Your hand reaches deep into darkness and spiderwebs. Rummaging around, you find rusty rifles hidden away.
Are these any good?
Most of them are rusty and inoperable, like the rest. But one catches your eye. A bolt-action model with a fine wood stock, in better cosmetic order than the others.
That's a rare sight. Seems to no longer be functional, but still a beautiful thing in its own way. It means there are firearms, albeit inoperable, still lying around in Martinez. It's an interesting coincidence, I would say. Might come in useful in the future.
He likes this find. The note is written with a blue pencil on a piece of lined office paper. The kitchen magnets have left spots on its surface.
Does it say anything interesting?
This is tangential at best, but the lieutenant's detective instinct is still active. Someone has scribbled, S. I can't believe the off-site copy is still here. The illiterate ginger kid keeps stealing stuff from the studio, so I had to hide it somewhere safe. You'll find the filament memory with the off-site copy in the frozen ice cream maker. Please take it home, ASAP. It's important. I'd do it myself if I lived in a civilized place with a freezer. Take care, Sully Swaff.
Someone who owns a radio computer? My guess is as good as yours, officer.
Which is to say, not very good.
It belongs inside a radio computer, storing its memory. It's like a tape. You listen to disco tapes, right? It's like one of your disco tapes, only for a computer. Really? You don't have a single guess? Oh, I'm sure that child would love to get his hands on a filament memory. Even if he doesn't know what to do with it, he'd probably try to pawn it for speed, based on our encounter. I don't know. I assume it's somewhere close to the iceberg fridge.
This orange machine is buzzing like an old submarine. It has a hand-cranked ice cream churner on top and an electric freezer that appears to be frozen shut. Turning the crank feels oddly satisfying, like stirring your childhood dreams. In the distance, you hear water dripping. You slip your fingers under the frozen lid, but the ice is too cold for you to get a good grip. A pry bar would come in handy here. If you want to try again, then you need to have the pry bar in your hand, detective. This orange machine is buzzing like an old submarine. It has a hand-cranked ice cream churner on top and an electric freezer that appears to be frozen shut. Turning the crank feels oddly satisfying, like stirring your childhood dreams. In the distance, you This orange machine. Two cables are plugged into the breaker box. The red one leads to the ice bear fridge and the black one to the ice cream maker nearby. Something close to you dies with a soft electric purr.
Why did you do that?
The lieutenant raises his brows, but doesn't say anything. This orange machine is turning the crank feels oddly satisfying, like only the red cable is plugged into the somewhere. A machine hums along with the current, happy. Two cables are plugged into the breaker box. The red one leads to the ice bear fridge and the black one to the ice cream maker nearby. The note is written with a blue pencil on a piece of someone has scribbled. You'll find the filament memory with the offsite copy in the frozen ice cream maker. Please take it home, ASAP. It's important. I'd do it myself. An old call box. East Delta Commerce Center. This must be the name of the doomed commercial area. An iron safety curtain curves before your eyes, folded like a bellows. It covers half the room, blocking the way into a colossal industrial chimney. This must be where the entity lives. This is directly above the central furnace in the cellar. The voices probably came from here. Two cables are plugged in something close.
Why did you do that?
The lieutenant raises his brows. As before, this is direct. What an odd thing to do. Nothing happens. Still nothing. No one's home. Those curtains prove to be surprisingly sturdy. Your fist hurts now.
There must be another way to wake up whoever is in there. Maybe we can try yelling into the furnace downstairs.
A thick layer of coal dust covers the furnace, coloring it pitch black. Something breaks loose in you. A mighty bellow echoes throughout the chimney's depths. The chatter of tiny voices above suddenly cease. Then,
Hello? Hello? Did you say anything? I can't hear you. Please come upstairs. There's a safety curtain on the second floor. I'll open it.
you hear a low rumble upstairs. The sound of a curtain being pulled aside.
After you, officer.
Hello, I'm Nia. Did you try knocking on my window? I must have missed you. I've been listening to my Milius. So what kind of dye are you looking for?
She's got a direct view to the backyard. You should interrogate her about the lynching.
Yes, Amelia is like a call-in station. You need a two-way radio to access one. That's why I have these.
Mostly, they just teach you to swear in different languages. But some of the stations can be quite interesting. I was so absorbed, I must have missed you knocking. Then how did you get inside? By the south entrance? You know what? It doesn't even matter. What matters is that you're finally here. Let's talk dice. Did you have something specific in mind? I'm a novelty dice maker. Tell me the name of your role-playing system and I'll make the die you need. That's why you're here, yes? Very good. My rate is 10 real per set, unless you want something really unusual. Take a look around and see if there's any particular stone you want to use.
It almost looks as if the stones and dice are a natural part of the room, growing out of the shells like stalagmites. This person means you, or no one else, absolutely no harm. She will answer freely and honestly. No falsehoods are present. She's a novelty dice maker and doesn't have anything to hide. Ask what you need.
How did I become one? It was a business decision. I was a regular jeweler at first, but that's an unfocused field with too much competition. Some of my friends were role players. They asked me to make some polyhedral dice out of cobalt. That was my first order. I grew it from there. Not especially. I like working with rare materials and a steady pay. And role players as customers? They're nice people.
Some of those nice people have big bucks to spend on novelty items.
We're inside the chimney of an old central furnace. It's strange, I know. But when I arrived here, all the other rooms were taken, so I had to build myself a makeshift home. Besides, I don't really have to pay any rent here, so that's a plus.
Creative.
I've heard the stories, but I don't think those stories are true. Plaisance, the bookshop lady? I've heard that her business is doing rather well. Have the energies spared her somehow? Oh, right. But it's not just the bookstore that's still up and running. What about the whirling in rags? Some people say it's part of the building complex. And then there is me. I've been here for 14 years, selling novelty dice to role-playing enthusiasts. Not exactly a million-real business idea, yet somehow I've survived despite the talk of malicious energies. Strange, isn't it?
Maybe it's just because she's so talented that she's been able to woo the curse.
What, so the curse only affects people with poor work ethics? What you're describing isn't a curse, it's capitalism. Exactly. Truth is always so disappointingly mundane and boring. But I'm glad we got this sorted out. Anything else I can help you with today?
That's all she has to say on the subject. She's been thorough and truthful as far as we can see. Plaisance is not going to like what you have to tell her.
More or less. Are you interested in anyone specific?
Oh, quite a lot of them spring to mind.
Yes, I think it was called Androgynous Orlando or something similar. They weren't a big hit around here. Turns out that working class men don't like genderless haircuts. They're scared of that word.
A bit of experimenting every now and then isn't bad.
I guess it just wasn't the time yet. It wasn't merely a gym, it was Artemitep's boxing club, a community project created to steer at-risk youth away from drugs and crime. A kind man from Zemsk. I heard he had some trouble with the law when he was younger, and that's why he wanted to start the gym as his way of giving back. Kuno. Who's Kuno? Oh yes, you mean the kid with the sailor's mouth. Yes, I've heard him yelling profanities in the backyard. I think it would take more than a gym to help that kid. Kuno. Who's Kuno? Oh, yes. You mean the kid with the sailor's mouth? I think it would take more than. Couldn't. Oh, yes. I think it would take more than a gym to help that kid. It didn't. If anything, it made the youth situation in Martinez even worse. At some point, someone started a rumor that the punching bag downstairs was full of amphetamines.
You should have known it. It's not really full of that. No one would store their drugs like that.
Eventually, the coalition took away the funding and the club went bankrupt. This was a few years ago. It's gotten much more peaceful around the plaza ever since. Oh, this one's a mess. There used to be a company that promised to repair windows 24 hours a day. What could go wrong with this one, right? Turns out, the business was actually set up as a front for an illicit group that was producing snuff milias. Who would have guessed?
What's the snuff milieu?
And they never cleaned up the debris either. Now it's just littering the hallway and I have no idea how to get rid of it on my own. It's a sub-rosa radio station that broadcasts real murders with real victims. Some people pay good money to get off on it.
Nothing changes in her tone as she says that, as if it's just another piece of information to lay out for the world. What does she mean to get off on it?
Don't worry, the ICP has a separate division that deals exclusively with unlicensed sub-roses. This isn't our problem.
Good luck with that. It's not easy catching those perpetrators. You mean Mr. Fabron, the taxidermist? No, he mostly just did drugs.
But what drugs exactly?
He got high on some weird taxidermy chemicals. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. Eventually, they caused him to lose control of his bladder. The smell was awful.
Even you can probably do better than that.
There used to be a fashion atelier here, but I have forgotten the head designer's name. They were doing well for a couple of years, until the insect rights activists came. The atelier produced a certain collection that used chitin among the materials. Apparently chitin is made in the Occident, where it's extracted from beetle wings. And you know how all kinds of political movements are big in the Occident. The activists shut down the biggest chitin supplier, which of course caused the price to skyrocket. And, naturally, all the most fashionable tastemakers refused to be seen in chitin from then on. The atelier went bankrupt before they could finish the collection. Really? Anyway. There used to be a fashion atelier here. The atelier, and you know, and natural. Actually, insects do have brains. But yes, I understand what you're saying.
As she shifts around, you notice several dead flies on the windowsill in front of her.
Anything else? There used to be a The atelier, and you know how, and naturally, at least it had some spark to it. Most young designers just combine lace with leather and call it original.
As she shifts around.
Anything else? They were made by a company called Slipstream. After they pivoted from making rotor blades to skis, their chief executive took off on a vacation with all their money. Honestly, I think it's quite funny. I think he's still sending out holiday transmissions from Tulula or Tiumotiri or Hashtkor or wherever he is. The usual, I imagine. That he's been thinking up all kinds of new business plans and can't wait to get started on them just as soon as he returns.
Men like that are a curse.
Sure, but Slipstream is history now. All their remaining assets got seized by the bailiffs in 47. I have no idea why those skis and blades are still lying around in the house. Not much use now, I guess.
They were just the props. Why return them?
Fortress Accident, the radio game studio. They were an interesting bunch. We talked about role-playing systems every now and then. Once, I even saw two of them get into fisticuffs over Wirral.
That's understandable. Fantasies are serious things. The mind is the drawing board of history.
They certainly took their work very seriously, even if they seemed to be chronically liberal with their schedules. The usual, they ran out of money and couldn't get the project done on time. Well, I did hear them talking at times. They seemed to believe they were historical individuals on some grand quest.
She sounds almost mocking when she says that.
Yes, but when the money started to run out, they just began to complain a lot about capitalism. You know, how the markets are rigged to keep out new businesses and so on. In the end, they just didn't get it done. They didn't have enough willpower to produce something truly historic and to show up to work on time.
Showing up to work on time is hard. No, scratch that. Showing up to work at all is difficult, especially if you've been drinking.
Nemu さん、おはよう。
おはようございます。今日も
Nemu さん、今日も早いねおじいちゃんかな。
本当に早起きなんで、最近6時ぐらいには起きてご飯食べてなんかいろいろ済ませて8時には配信するって感じになっちゃってますさ。
眠さん、私も6時に目が覚める。
一緒じゃないですか。おばあちゃんじゃないですか、もう。
Not the wisest decision. You would have lost all your savings. Anything else? Fortress accident. They were an interesting.
That's understandable.
They certainly it's the usual. They're well. I did. They seem to believe they were his.
She sounds almost mocking when she says that.
Yes, but when in the end they just did.
Showing up to work on time is hard. No, scratch that. Showing up to work.
Still, not everyone is going to make it. That's the nature of the game.
眠さん、メンタルに来た。
どういうことですか？おばあちゃんって言葉がですか？
Anything else? Fortress accident. The radio games too. They were an interesting.
Let's understand.
They certainly the usual. Well, they seem.
She sounds almost mocking when she
眠
says that.
さん、傷ついた。
まあおばあちゃんかどうかはもう気持ちの問題なんでね。こんな
眠さん、否定できない。
まあ言うてそうなんですね。まあわかんないけど、俺全然なんかもうおじいちゃんって言われても傷つかないっすわ。なかなかなんかもうそんな別に年にこだわることないなって思っちゃいましたね。なんか22ぐらいならまだなんかってなってたけどもうないっすね。
Yes, but when the money starts, in the end they just.
Showing up to work on time.
And so is producing something extraordinary. Anything else?
眠さん、舐めてるね君。
まあ気の持ちようですよ。気にしなきゃいいんすよ、そんな。
Oh boy, the fabled Revo Show ICT. You're in for a treat here. The place was owned by two guys who had some rather innovative ideas about marketing. The bear was one of them. Now ask me about their other ideas.
Indeed. What were the other ideas?
There was really just one, and it involved picking out the prettiest girls in the neighborhood and paying them 20 cents per hour to man the booth. And by man the booth, I mean slump behind the counter with a face that could maim you if you ever dared to disturb their bored magazine browsing.
ああ、まあなんか大人びてるみたいな感じですよね。ああ、でも確かに女の人だとあれなんかな、まあ、老けてるみたいな感じになっちゃって悲しくなるんですかね。どうなんでしょうね。
眠さん、女の一派見た目的な話になりがちだけど男の一派落ち着き具合とかのイメージ。
ああ、確かに男の人は別にそんなね、なんか見た目老けててもまあって感じになるけど、なんか女の人が老けてるとすごい言われるイメージはありますね。 ああ、全然気にしないですけどね、俺は。なんか
ネムさん、渋いね。ってなるもんね。
いいっすね。もう渋い男になりたいっすわ。
Sounds like she really didn't like those girls. Fritta does the same thing.
ネムさん、ガキが。ネムさん、笑。
おお、言いますね。まあね、まだまだガキですわ。まあ、まだ社会出てないんでね。
Employing silky teenage girls is a widespread practice, yes. Unfortunately, they always come in packs. I'm talking about acne-ridden girlfriends and gorilla-like boyfriends loitering near the shop. At least that's what happened with Ravishou ICT.
Acne-ridden girlfriend and gorilla-like boyfriend.
And they already had the bear. The bear. Of course not. The bear was terrifying. No one wants ice cream guarded by a hostile apex predator. To make matters worse, the fridge didn't work too well either, and half the ice cream came out malformed and partially melted.
Apex Predator。ああ、まあね、もう半年後か、には社会人なんでね、そっからどんどん成長して渋い男になっていきますよ。
Eventually, Ravishou ICT lost the price war to its rival, Class A 5000. Class A 5000 sold caramel sundaes for only 5 cents a piece, out of regular fridges.
ネムさん、若いうちは年相応のことしといた方がいいとは思うけどね。
ああ、まあどうでしょうね。もうなんかちっちゃい頃からそんな感じだった気がします。俺はもうなんか家族がみんな年上だからめっちゃ離れてて、なんかその中で育っちゃったから、なんか同い年の人たちが、まあ、なんか子供っぽすぎてああみたいな、なんかうーんってなっちゃう感じがあったから、まああれですね。
ネムさん、バカにしてたんだな。
そうっすね。なんかバカにしてたのかな。
ネムさん、笑。
バカにしていたのかもしれません。
ネムさん、こら、笑。
なんかね、 別になんか行動をバカにすることはないけど、なんか精神的になんかねっていうのはいろいろあったかな。
ネムさん、まあどちらかというと私も冷ややかだった方だけど。
ネムさんもなんかね、裏でバカにしてそうだもん。
ネムさん、遊べるうちに遊んだ方がいいってのは本当だと思う。
まあそれは確かにそうだと思いますわ。まあその年でね、やれることがあったりするから、年取ってからやろうと思ってもできないことは多いですもんね。
ネムさん、バカにはしてないよ。ダブル私流行りたくないって割り切ってた方。
ああ、本当に1ミリもバカにしなかったですか？どうなんですか？
Maybe, because the taxidermist who made the bear definitely wasn't. Doing his job, I mean. He said that the bear was his vision beast. He said he met his vision beast while high on desiccants. Called it Megatherion.
Sounds cool.
ネムさん、私自分が器用じゃない方って分かってたからどちらかというと混ざれないなって感覚だったかもね。
ああ、そうなんですね。
Megatherion, a mega wild beast.
ネムさん、昔から人付き合いが苦手なんだよね。
そんな感じ、今はしないですけどね、なんか。まあ、話してる感じだとね、そんな感じはなかなかしないですけど、俺がそう感じているだけでっていう話かもしれないですね、もしかしたら。
It's an imaginary beast that guides you through life by telling you to do more drugs, mostly.
A wise and noble beast, guiding you toward the land where the streets are paved with drugs.
ネムさん、仕事で割と克服はしたからこの力はマジで高いって言われるけど。
なんか普通になんか
ネムさん、人付き合いは下手わら。
まあさ、そういうことが、人付き合いね、コミュニケーション力というかってやつね。まあ俺もそう言われたらそうかもしれないさ。なんかなんだろう、人付き合いね。確かに。もうなんかすごいこう深い仲っていうのになるのが苦手かもしれないさ。
ネムさん、誰とでも適当にはしゃべれるけど、仲良くなるってなると別かな。
そう。それはある。
ネムさん、そうわかる。
very good. You shouldn't do them. You're a police officer
ネ
after
ム
all.
さん、ところで話はどんな感じ？
Anyway, now you know the story of the fallen ice cream empire. Anything else?
だいぶ
Another failed business, perhaps?
複雑ですね、説
I've
明
been
する
here
の
for
が
a long time.
めちゃめちゃ複雑だな今。どこまでやりましたっけか、ネームさん行った時。ネームさん行った時、どこまでいたかな。本屋にいたかな。
ネムさん、謎は解けてきてる？
本当に少しずつって感じっすね。でも全然革新的なことはなくて。
ネムさん、いやもうだいぶ前。
だいぶ前ですよね。いやまだ本当になんか革新についたようなことは、
本屋だね。
そうですよね、本屋ですよね。なんだろうね。まあなんかいろんな人の話聞きながらこうマップ探索をしてるっていうのがメインで、謎に関してはまあなんかなんだっけな、ちょっと待ってくださいね、時間がこれで進まないかな。なんだろうな、なんか吊るされてた人がいるじゃないですか、クーノーっていうなんかクソガキみたいなのがいたところ、あそこの場所にゴミ箱があったんですよね、鍵かかってる。でその鍵が切れんのがなんだっけ、俺が泊まってる宿のマネージャーとか女の人、あとはまあゴミ回収業者というかっていう人しか開けれないゴミ箱があって、その中に吊るされた人の服が入ってたんだよねっていうのがあって、じゃあこの鍵にアクセスできるのは誰だとかっていう謎がちょっとあったりで、あと同時にそのゴミ箱の中に記憶なくす前に多分俺が捨てたなんか警察のそのなんか資料みたいなが一緒にあって、でそれをもとに
ネムさん、ほうほう。
なんか自分の記憶というか、まあ、どんな自分が警察官だったのかっていうのがちょっと分かったみたいな。でその話によると何年だか18年ぐらいっつったかな、なんか勤めてるらしくて、警察官として。で解決した事件がなんか200個ぐらいあるみたいな、だからめちゃめちゃ多いんだよね、200件。だからすごい凄腕の刑事だったんじゃないかみたいな。でその中で3人その人を殺してるらしいのね、事件解決するにあたってっていうような過去が分かったとか。
ネムさん、なるほど。
であとはなんかあったかな、なんか本編に関するのはそんな感じだと思う。すごい謎に直結するようなのは。でなんか人種的なのを話してきた。
でもこのゲーム何したら終わるんだろうね。
まあ謎いろいろ解いて最終的に殺人事件解くのと自分の記憶取り戻したら終わりなんじゃないですかね。なんかドア封鎖してる男の人いたじゃないですか、戦うかなんかするかみたいな。あの人の話はまだ進めてないですね。であとは車椅子に乗ったおばあちゃんがいたんだけど、そのおばあちゃんの旦那さんが帰ってこないってなってて、でなんで帰ってこないかって言ったら、なんかその下の方で橋があるんだけど、その橋が
ネムさん、この事件がやっぱり鍵なのかね。
かもしれないですね。なんかその橋が 今なんか封鎖されちゃってて、故障かなんかで。だからそれを助けてみたいなのとか、あとはなんか足跡いっぱいあったと思うんですけど、庭に。その庭の足跡がまあドッグワーカーの人たちで、そのドッグワーカーの人たちがまあ朝ごはん食べてて、その宿のとこで、だからこの靴あの人だな、この靴あの人だなみたいなのをやって、それでもあとなんか一人分靴の持ち主の人が誰かわかんないみたいになってて、そのドッグワーカーの中でそいつ誰だって言っても向こうは話したがらないみたいな。あとは本屋さんのところがなんかカーストって言って呪われてるっていう話をしてたんだけど、そのカーテンに隠された奥に行けるようになって、で今そこをいろいろ探索してってのここっていう感じだね。でこの人がいて、今いろんな話を聞いてるって感じです。まあ言葉だけで言ってるから多分わかんないと思うんですけどまあそんな感じですね。多分今いるのここなんですよ。
丁寧にわかりやすい説明ありがとうございます。ネムさん、なんとなくわかったよ。
本当っすか。で今気づいたんだけど、今いるのがここなんだよね。この右側のところ、ハングルマンっていうところの。で宿がここで、ここっちに大きな企業があって、会社があって、ドア封鎖されててストライキ起こしてるとこで、宿の裏で人が死んでて、でここ本屋さんで、本屋さんのその呪われたとこで今ここら辺を操作してるかな。
ブラハンさん、おはようございます。
デュラハンさん、お久しぶりです。おはようございますって感じですね。でここら辺のこの橋かな、この橋がなんかぶっ壊れてるっぽくて、って感じだから、なんか直して今こっちにマップ見えてるから、もしかしたらこっちを捜索とかもまた今後あるかもしれないですね。だからすげえ壮大だと思う。まだ序でな気がしますわ。
ネムさん、まだ半分くらいいけてないね。
マップにして半分はいけてないから、でも謎にしたらもう全然ですよこれ。マジでくっそ長いと思うこのゲーム。
Oh, right. I hope you didn't try to ring me.
デュラハンさんとかも多分めっちゃやり込むと思いますよこのゲーム、もしやるなら。
I think none of those doorbells work, including mine. I'm still in the middle of connecting the wires. Sorry about the confusion.
The doorbell with the empty name card must belong to her
本当で
then.
すか。マイク変わったからそうかもしれないですね。
ネムさん、これクリアする頃には意味わからん用語に強くなってそう。
ありえるかも。TOEIC で関係ない単語で強いかもしれない。
That's right. I haven't even written my name there. As I said, it's quite useless right now. It doesn't work yet. You could say so. Both houses were built at the same time and under the East Delta Commerce Center project. That explains why you can call the whirling from the intercom, albeit I doubt that anyone responds.
見てたんですか。いやなんかね、結構面白いですよ。だからジラハンさん結構やり込みゲーム好きじゃないですか。なんだろ 分岐あるようなゲームでも全部やるみたいなタイプだから、多分好きだと思いますわ。で、今英語しかないんですけど、来年の春は多分に日本語版が全部出るっぽいんで、スイッチでも CS でも PC でも多分出るんで、絶対やってほしいですね。
If the whirling is part of the same building, then it's part of the doomed commercial area. The darkness of this place is there, too.
Right, it used to be a gaming arcade. This is an ancient failure, before my time. I'm not surprised, however. My advice: don't base your business on a fad. Hypnotism, floriography, trick track, especially
ネム
pinball.
さん、人にゲームさせたい私には無理なゲームだね。
どういうあれですか、人にゲームさせたいって。
Agreed. Pinball is the worst.
It can't be true. They don't work here anymore. They've been gone for years.
マジ？
Are you sure it was Slipstream SEA? Was it a woman? Maybe it was Play Sans from the bookstore. Alright, but did this person say anything?
ああ、なるほどね。まあそういうタイプもいますよね。なんかね、めんどくさいこととか、自分やりたくないけどゲームは楽しみたいっていう気持ちはわかります。
Tricentennial Electrics?
なんか逆にうっつってイライラしちゃうから、俺こうしたいのにみたいにイライラしちゃうから、自分で結局やりたくなっちゃいますわ。
It used to be a major electric company 100 years ago. Are you sure it wasn't just some kids playing a prank on you?
It was too real to be just a prank. Either we're dealing with a professional actress, or...
ネムさん、まあ私より下手な人の歯みたいけど男の人歯なんだかんだ頭いいから。
いやー、まあわかんないですよ、そんな。ただゲームに、まあ、なんだろうね、別にゲームなんか一個ゲームできたら多分他のゲームも多分できるから、ましてやなんか
大人に限るけど、
オーバーウォッチやってるような人ならなんかね、なんとなくはっていうのはあるんじゃないですか。ソフトウェアエレクトリック。
Pranks can be eerie. Oh, the kids these days. We were just one of them, and now they're terrorizing us. No solidarity. Sure, I'm listening. I'm pretty sure it still doesn't work, but sure, what do you want to know? Sure, I'm listening. Good. I hope it clarified things a bit. What else? Of course. Tell me what you have in mind. I think I have just the right one for you. You're a police officer, right? Here, catch. They're a gift from me.
A beautiful woman tossing you a gift. Whatever you do, don't overthink it.
やべ、キャッチャーダイスが 28% しかない。まずい。クイックセーブもできない。まずい。レベルが上がってないから。まずい。28% でサイコロをキャッチできるかどうか。
ネムさん、これ流行るね。
やべえ。これやんないと多分。
ネムさん、わかるよ。
レテンフォローオンザグラウンドだから、もうなんか落としちゃうんですよね。で、わかんない。何で作られてるかわかんないけど、落としちゃうと壊れちゃうんじゃないかな。28%。レッドチェックだから、やり直し効かないんですよね、これ。いくぜ。
You overthink it. Your hands can't agree what to do, and the two dice drop to the floor and scatter in opposite directions, like pearls from a broken string.
ネム
The
さん、
blue one
ゲンちゃん
disappears
には
down the
取れな
pit
い。
in the center of the room.
はい、壊れました。
Ah, down the drain, like your career. I apologize, officer. That comment was unnecessary. That one is made of bloodstone with a lapis lazuli inlay. The other one was the inverse. They were a set, you see, but now the set is broken.
壊れてしまったし、あーって、お前のキャリアみたいだなって、キャリアみたいだなっていう悲しい冗談も疲れたわ。
It's a shame. They might have brought you luck. And you definitely need luck in Martinez. Now, was there anything else? Of course. Tell me what you have in mind. What do you mean by cursed? All right. How about I surprise you? Come back in 8 hours with 7 real, and I'll give you your cursed die. Great. See you in 8 hours then. Was there anything else? Nothing really.
The lieutenant looks at his notebook, then the woman under the large window.
Your window looks directly onto the courtyard. You're saying you didn't see or hear anything unusual last Sunday evening?
I'm sorry, detective, but as you know, I usually have my headphones on when I'm working. It shuts out most of the daily ruckus behind my window. Well, there's always something going on in the Whirling's backyard. During daytime, there are usually those kids. And lately, I've been seeing a lot of drunk workers hanging about. Must be because of the strike.
She's heard of the murder, but did not see it.
But I never saw anyone during that fateful Sunday night, I'm afraid. I might have, but in this case, all I would have seen is my own reflection staring back from the darkness. It's really hard to make anything out in the yard when it's dark outside. Besides, I rarely get up to look out the window when I'm in the zone. It's an odd profession, making dice for people, but I like it, and I prefer doing this to sitting at home.
She nods.
Anything else, officer?
Kanashi. Map tab でなんで White checks are opened.
ネムさん、気がついたら服装もめちゃ変わってるのね。
あ、そうそうそう、なんかね、拾った、これゴミ漁ってたら拾った服、上のやつは。で、これ、本屋の女の子からもらった。で、なんかツールもあってって感じかな。でもなんかアイテムもいろいろ拾って、これがそのゴミ箱の中から見つけたなんだ、過去の俺の資料というか。
ネムさん、ゴミ切るな。
Yes?
ああ、あれが壊れちゃった。ちょっとどこだっけ。
A thick layer of coal dust covers the furnace, coloring it pitch black. This orange machine is dead still. It has a hand-cranked ice cream churner and an electric freezer. The ice around it slowly melting. You slip your fingers under the frozen lid, but the ice is too cold for you to get a good grip. A pry bar would... If you want to try again, then you need to have the pry bar in your hand.
結局あれか。
This orange machine is dead still. It has a hand-cranked ice cream churner and an electric freezer. The ice around it slowly melting.
ダメだ。で、ここがつながってましたと。図書館と本屋さんと。話していいのかな。
Hi, Ace Detective.
ちょっと待った方がいいよな。あれ、あ、これか。ちょっと待ってもらおう。 さてどうしよう。あ、ゴミ箱、これね、こっから見つけました。
An inconspicuous pile of the roofing material, Eternite.
いや、こういうの開けたいんだけど、あれないよな。
ネムさん、匂ってるよ。
いや、このゴミてか、このゴミじゃねえ、この服は違うゴミ箱から見つけたから、そこまで匂ってないと思うんだけどな。
ネムさん、このゴミ、わら。
あ、そうそう、この人たちがそのドッグワーカーで、裏の足跡をつけてた人たちで、こいつらがリンチしたんじゃないかっていうあれね。なんかあるかな。
Can I help you? Another thing. Great. Yes, and the phone company is taking its sweet time sending someone to fix it. Losers.
ネムさん、序盤に一人寄ってた人の足跡もあったの？
序盤に一人寄ってた人の足跡。待ってください、記憶がないぞ。序盤に一人寄ってた人の足跡。足跡の中に。
ネムさん、薬持ってたドッグワーカー。
下にいた人か。ちょっと待ってくださいね。
It's not strange, it's inconvenient. Who told you that? Fine, yeah. It looked like someone had messed with the wiring. It was shortly after the hanging, but I don't know if it's at all related. Plenty of assholes around here who aren't murderers. If you do find out who cut the line, though, let me know so I can forward them the repair bill. Yes?
この人？
Still here. Stuck in this damn jam, my man. What's up?
マジで記憶が。酔ってた人。
ネムさん、お店の中で寄って机に伏せて寝てた人。
あの人ね。その人のはないかな。ここにいた人ですよね。
ネムさん、まだ一人の時に薬盗んだ。
ここでね、取ったやつね。この人ね。この人、もしかしたらこの中にいるかも。もしかしたら。 起きてこっちにいるかも。こいつとかかもしんない。ワンちゃんちょっとあれだけど、こいつは話せない。
ネムさんどこ行ったんだ。
多分この中にいるかも。ちょっとね、探す。
You see a heavy steel door with a prominent dimple lock. The door does
次はどうしよう。今日泊まるお金もない。お金稼がなきゃ。どうしたもんか。そうで、これがなんかこれの看板が原因でこの橋が閉まんなくて、で、ここにいる男の人が帰ってこれないと。でこの男の人が多分車椅子のおばあちゃんの夫なんじゃないかなっていう感じです。探索とあとはここでまあ事件があって吊るされてるんだけど、この上にここにバルコニーがあるんだけど、このバルコニーに、まあ、男の人が突っ立ってて、でその人が見たんじゃないかって、なんか見てるんじゃないかって話聞きたかったんだけど、お前とはもう会えないんだっつってどっか行っちゃって、でこの建物にどうにか入りたいんだけど、まあ鍵がかかってると。で違う入り口があるはずだっつってて、でここにもう一個入り口があってやるんだけど、
a sturdy metal door guards the southwest. This could be a way into the apartment building the smoking man vanished into.
なんかね、おばあちゃんがいるんだけど。
Good. We had enough problems with bums and drunks and thieves loitering in the hallway. You have no business here.
でおばあちゃんがまあなんか多分住人がクソみたいなやつばっかだから、そいつと関わるようなやつが増えたら困るっつって怒ってて、で警察ですって言っても全然信じてくれてないっていう。
ネムさん声のこもり具合が無駄にリアル。
そうそうそう。
Madame, I assure you, we are real police officers.
There is no reply. Just
っていうね。でなんかここにも女の人がいて、
Hello again, officers. Have you come to admire my mural?
でこの人はなんかなんだろうね、壁画っていうか壁に絵を描いたりする、まあ、落書きとも言えるようなのを描いてる人がいて、まあなんかいろいろ話聞いててみたいな。でどうたらこうたらってやってたら、あいつがここに桟橋に釣り合わないようなでかさの船を置いた女の人がいるんだけど、この人のこと話してて、でこの人にこう話を聞いてたら、
You're back. Good. What can I help you with?
この人めっちゃクソ金持ちらしくて、でまあなんかいろいろそのこの今いる島の昔の話とか、まあ企業金持ち、このワイルドパインズっ っていう企業のなんか話とかをいろいろ教えてくれてるっていう感じかな。
More lessons in basic reality? My favorite part of the day.
っていうの
Go
が
ahead,
いろいろ
ask
聞
me
けるこ
anything.
とはある。話すと長い。
These are unimportant times, Detective. You and I were born after the dust had settled. A thousandth of a second too late. For the big time. The revolution. It's quite easy. Every 100 years or so, our species gets together to decide what's next, who gets shot in the head, and who gets the mineral rights. It's a real kerfuffle. Those would be the communists. Generally speaking, 40 million people got shot in the head during the World Revolution. But the communists, they all got shot in the head. Oh, and the anarchists too. They shot them well. So well, one forgets they even existed.
She likes the totality of it.
Indeed. They piled them in mass graves in Ozon. And, well, that's the last anyone heard of those people. Did they ever? Before they got shot themselves, they shot 2 million people.
Yeah, it was a kerfuffle, all right.
Yes. The Insulindian deluge, they call it. Oh, lots of people. Even the king got shot in the head, or thrown beneath a horse, or drowned. Accounts differ. It was unceremonious. Just as well, he wasn't actually the king. Just the king's nephew. The real king abdicated and lived out a long and productive life as a venture capitalist in Grad. Yes. King Guillaume had a nose for bad PR. He ran before it. What is the expression? Went down? Anyway, Gil got out alive and his nephew Frisell got shot in his place. Him and tens of thousands of his wonderfully fascist kingsmen. It was a wild time. The liberals got the mineral rights. And by mineral rights, I mean everything. Liberals are usually middle-class people, Detective. Or the remaining gentry. The beneficiaries of the pre-revolutionary arrangement. Some were rich enough to stay with the Constitution, with monarchy. Big mistake. Others bet on the revolution. They were called the ultras, or ultra-liberals. They fared well. They didn't win so much as survive. We were the last ones standing when the war ended. Everyone else got shot in the head, remember?
We. She's one of them. Of course.
To foreign intervention. The coalition. Those people really took the mineral rights. The liberals took everything that wasn't nailed to the ground. The coalition took the ground. The ocean, the laws, and the people. The coalition of nations. Grad, Mesk, Vesper, Messina, Oranje, and Sur-le-Clay. The armed center of the world. They landed here and ended the revolution. It was the moralist thing to do. The moralists believe in keeping everything exactly the way it is. They believe in mineral rights, and not shooting people in the head. At least not in the same manner and volume as the others do. They are the long-standing provisional rulers of Revachol now, the coalition government. This is their zone of control. They embolden the RCM with crumbs of the same law they took. Technically speaking, you are a moralist.
The color of moralism is blue. The official motto of Moral Intern, or Moralist International, is a blue forget-me-not, a piece of grey sky. Unofficial. For a moment, there was hope.
Of course. Not easy to be moderate about head shooting in your line of work. The turn of the century revolution? Don't answer it. It's a trick question. The revolution began in '02 on the Isla of Grad, though by the end, nearly the whole world had gotten involved. It wasn't a who, but a what. A pandemic of Zarat, a particularly virulent prion disease, which the authorities in Grad proved unable to contain. Then Mazov came along and overthrew the government. It made people overthrow their governments. Of course not. It was a highly infectious microorganism that destroyed brain tissue. The actual causes of the revolution were material. The pandemic only provided the spark.
It was a funny time in history. They discovered transistors and rock music, but they didn't know anything about prions. Nobody did.
From Revachol and Grad? Not far. The world managed to cauterize itself. Mazov's government was overthrown in '08, and the coalition crushed the Revachol commune 2 years later. It was the end. Why? You and I, officer. Our lives in the zone of control. A city-state divided into free market zones under the everlasting interregnum of the Coalition of Nations, and you, of course, the citizens' militia. The zone of control is the third incarnation of Revachol, after the failure of the suzerain and the commune. Modernity. They developed the marvels of the inter-islary communication, telematic milieus, radiation, colored plastics. Meanwhile, in Revachol West, the aftermath continues for the 5th decade.
51 minus 8 equals 43.
Time flies. The 20s saw a decade of urban war, west of the river leveled, offshore platforms in flames. Still, it's regarded as an improvement on what came before. '08 to '19 was simply hell. The 30s? Things settled down in the 30s. Revachol East transformed itself into the world's largest tax haven, with the international community's blessing. For the first time in a long time, it seemed like things were going somewhere.
All that untaxed income must have fueled the new. That can only mean one thing.
Yes, and quantitative easing. It was a market mirage, unfortunately. The 40s dispelled it. An Isla-wide hangover, you might say. So, here we are. Welcome to reality, baby.
For her to be where she is, Wild Pines Group must have picked the right side.
They picked the winning side. That's why they're here, and others are not. Perhaps it wouldn't have turned out that way had I been in charge. I might have bet on the king and led the Pines to doom. I would have sided with the cannons. If you'd seen the calibers of the things, you might have too. Perhaps it's better I was born when I was. 10 of the 14 Indo tribes got it wrong. Feld, Capri, Tricentennial. So I suppose I would have been in good company. Good question. What would you have done differently? And I asked you, past less detective of the Citizens Militia, what insight has acute encephalopathy given to you?
Nemu さん、フリーズしてんのかと思った。
いや、じゃないですね。考えてました。
Nemu さん、わら。
So a quarter of humanity simply lost their minds. And how would you stop a prion, a complex folding protein, unlife, with a technology 50 years ago? Good hygiene. Really. A very moderate solution to an extreme problem. It's those sort of half measures that doomed the authorities in Grad. When they failed to step up, Marzov and his party stepped in. In this particular case, maybe a more robust state response might have been appropriate.
Opinions expressed here do not reflect the official position of the RCM.
And what is your official position, Lieutenant?
My position, ma'am? My parents got ripped to shreds in the revolution. I would have gone the same way. I was saved by being 2 years old. That's my position. The abattoir.
Understandable. Good question. What would you have done differently? I see. A tenth of humanity. The key of history is in the lock. Keep turning at any cost. Over. That's entropolism, the very height of late modernity. Evacuate this world. You may prove a truly modern man yet. And what is your...
My position, ma'am?
Understandable. Good question. What would you have done differently? So a quarter of humanity. Simply liquidate? That's what King Philip kept screaming from the Sol Aurum. Liquidate! Liquidate! In the end, they liquidated the Sol Aurum, melted the palace cube down to gold and platinum, and sold it for bullets. Strange times. And what is your...
My position, ma'am?
Understandable. Good question. So a quarter of humanity. Simply a poor remedy for prion disease. That was the attitude of most of the more moderate Indo tribes, particularly those who supported the king. Kupri, Resplendent, both gone now. Those that survived mended their ways. They're all ultras now.
Opinions expressed.
And what is your...
My position, ma'am?
Understandable. Good question. So a quarter of humanity simply lost their mind, always. That's the can't-do attitude that truly defines late modernity. You may prove a modern man yet. And what is...
My position, ma'am?
Understandable. Good question. I see. A past. That's what De Briever, the leader of the Communards, said, before she got a bullet in her head. Don't get me wrong. Capital is finished. But understand this. Its end won't free anyone. It will only lead to more suffering. And what is...
My position, ma'am?
Understandable. Good question. I see. A tenth of humanity forever. In 20 years, Revachol went from a king to a commune to a zone of control. She is forever. But the next thing she will be is something else. And what is...
My position?
Understandable. Good question. What would you have... I see. A tenth of humanity. All yours. That's been the motto of many an Indo tribe. There is something clarifying about that strain of ultra-liberalism. Believe it or not, Wild Pines isn't even the most notorious example. That would be Saint-Baptiste. You can go quite far with that attitude. And what is your...
My position, ma'am?
Understandable. They picked the winning side. Perhaps it wouldn't have turned... I would aside 10 of the 14... Good question. What would you have done differently? You and everyone else. But that's got nothing to do with preventing the revolution. Ah, well. What was, I guess. Good question. What would you have done differently? And you would have died, most likely. Not far from here. Maybe even right here, during the beachhead, defending the coast the day the Coalition took the city. No, almost certainly. The Commune would have forced you. Such was the fate of the undecided. Good question. And you would have died most good. Not that it would have mattered. In the end, the Commune forced everyone to the barricades. Good question. And you would have died. Then you would have died fighting against them. Long before the beachhead, our time is a shadow cast by that day. They are what they are. Who knows? An afterbloom may yet come. Anyway, enough sentimentality. Is there anything else you want to know?
Not so fast. Who is she in all this? Ask her who she is. She owes you an answer.
It's a neurological disorder caused by a lack of vitamin B in the brain. Symptoms include a retrograde amnesia. It's quite serious. You should get yourself checked out. Well, it's either bariatric surgery or long-term alcohol use.
She nods slowly. What this boils down to is, this reality thing is stupid. Blow this joint, grab a bottle, and drain that shit right down your throat. Yes, and lie about it too, to her. She stares at you, head tilted to the side, with a slightly concerned look on her face. She won't maneuver her way out of this one.
I am the vilest of the vile. A traitor, a devourer of nations and infants. I am an ultra. An ultra-liberal. It's a type of liberal. From the revolution. It's, not the moderate kind. No, not like me. I am the nether creature of the Forbidden Swamp who pushed the king under a shitwagon and betrayed the revolution. Are you liberated enough to offer up your home on a plate for financial colonists? No, I think not. Tell me, now that I've uncoiled myself, do you find me frightening?
In her green eyes, you see a mixture of truth and self-satire. Decades of guilt and pride. Forgive her, but only because you like pearlescent teeth and those light green eyes.
I hope you do. I hope we are able to continue as friends, despite my scales and my need to infiltrate and betray your precious revolution. Honestly, I may have even preferred it, had the communards won. Who knows? They might really have built something better. But they didn't, because they lost. When the dust settled, the Liberals were the only ones left to clean up the mess. By virtue of their survival, they were handed enormous power to shape the future. This was all our last generation managed. With due respect to our overlords, the eternal caretaker government that keeps Martinez a monument to the efficacy of its artillery, I would not have relinquished sovereignty to the Coalition. Not here in Martinez, and not in the Stella Maris or Delta Beachheads either. If not for my own sake, then for my daughters. We had an obligation to defend our sovereignty. We should have burned the whole Isla down rather than let them have it. Perhaps my intellectual vanity will be my undoing.
You're no dummy yourself.
A smart boy getting smarter, one basic term of reality at a time. Yes, I suppose I am. But I wouldn't be a patriot anywhere but here.
Seditious talk, ma'am.
Yes. Whatever else I am, I'm also a mother. And a wife. Now, shall we return to reality?
She won't maneuver her way out.
I am an ultra. Haven't you heard? I am a nether creature. We surrendered the nation to...
In her green eye, forgive her, but only because you like pearlescent teeth and those light green eyes.
I hope you do, honestly. When the dust settled, the Liberals were the only ones left to clean up the mess. By virtue of their survival, they were... Nothing settled. Simply fade. A bird? A sphenicid? A flightless bird of the polar regions? Some sort of krill hunter? No, wait. You're an ancient ruin. A symbol of hubris and decay, half submerged in some salty sea. Of course you're not, my dear. I'm just terrible at guessing games. Ah. This is the pier of Rue de Saint-Ghislaine, 33A, where the tenants have been kind enough to rent me a slot. Or two. A pre-revolutionary tenement. Old buildings are called tenements, you see. And new buildings, bâtiments. After les bâtiments nouveaux. But 33A and 33B are not nouveaux. They're old. This one used to be 8 to 10 stories tall. A real high-rise by the standards of the last century. Built to mirror the skyscrapers across the bay in the Delta. That was before the war, of course. Mostly the urban middle class, I believe. This was once primo real estate, before the cannons lopped 4 or 5 stories off. Splat, splat.
お、ちょっとつながったか。
Wonderful. The girl in the old lady rags. Looks like a sullen and rebellious member of a teen infraculture. Yes, you and I belong to the supraculture. We're common, the herd. The music on the radio, the food in the chain restaurant, those are all too popular for the girl in the old lady rags.
あ、まあループしてるとこもあったけどね、ちょっと。でも一応話は進んでいます。
She prefers a fantasy world, an infraculture with its own dress code and vernacular. It is an illusion, I'm afraid. There is no refuge from the supraculture. Young people who dye their hair funny colors and wear old people's clothes are stupid, and their little rebellion is self-defeating. All right. What next?
Suddenly, you're not so sure you're part of the supraculture.
And what would that be?
She lets out an unrestrained laugh, the crow's feet stretching onto her cheeks.
My reality-impaired colleague is not so far off. Many of the RCM's fashions, even weapon preferences, borrow heavily from classic Vespertine cop shows. My precinct alone has 3 officers who go by the name Ace. But please, do continue this reality exploration. I was just remarking.
Yes, let's. The girl in the old lady rags? Ah, yes. There's something very satisfying about discussing the fundamental facts of reality. Go ahead. The girl in the old... looks like a... yes. You and I, but she prefers a fantasy world. Young people who... all right.
Suddenly, you're not so...
And what would that be? I can see that, yes. I dabbled in those dark arts myself, not so long ago. I assure you, it was a thoroughly supracultural phenomenon. All permeating. Downright mandatory. Nothing infra about disco, baby. Those days are long behind me. And even in the early 30s, I would say I was more of a new girl. Disco was a minor, but still enjoyable facet of the whole thing for me. The new, a cultural era, and the name of the decade it ravished, the 30s. It came out of post-revolutionary revival. It was ultra-liberal. It involved lots of partying, as you might imagine, and champagne-colored everything. By the looks of it, that would have been when you came of age. Now, wasn't it Guillaume Le Million who said, if you can remember the new, you weren't there? Ah, yes. This is not very central to reality, is it? I can't be 100% sure, but I believe he died due to complications from venereal disease. All of them. You can't get a venereal disease from that, can you? I'm afraid no. But then again, one can't be entirely sure. It's all part of his mystique. Ask someone else and you may get a more champagne-colored take. Anyway, What other basic facets of reality should we discuss?
ギルアルミリオン、ここで知れるのか。これだ。これなんかできたんかな、もしかして。
Glad to have been of assistance.
Hello again, officers. Have you come to admire my mural?
She turns her hatred.
That
The woman on the boat does not notice her staring.
On a first-name basis with her, are we? Piggy's moving up in the world. Have you got a crush on her?
She turns hatred. The woman.
That is on her. Someone's got to keep an eye on her. On a first name, Pig's not half as dumb as he looks. Can't you? I haven't really. Yeah?
Let's be realistic. What are you going to do?
You heard your partner, Piggy. Can't you tell? I haven't really started it. Have you ever? We rarely. This place. I thought I'd make. Yeah? Lying is cool.
でどうしたのか。
Just an ordinary wall. Nothing to see here.
これができればシンディのなんかが上がるんだけど。コンセプト。これか。どうしたもんか。ちょい探すかなんかいろいろ。
The tear machine stands. Your bottles clunk into the machine. Do you know what you should do with that money, kiddo?
Is this about the questions again? Because I don't really know anything. A warehouse? I don't know. Maybe. I don't really care what Frit does.
She looks up.
Fine. Frit doesn't have a warehouse. Just a little back room here. Okay? I don't really know anything. Uh-huh.
This orange machine is dead still. The bear's eyes are still glowing red, watching over all the ice cream wrappers hidden inside its belly. A friendly cartoon bear smiles back at you from a glossy cellophane wrapper. It looks nothing like the fridge. The dusty radio computer sleeps on its wired frame. The machine lights up like some prehistoric animal stirring from its slumber, revealing fluorescent play and print keys on the keyboard. The hatch on the machine's central compartment is wide open. It's empty like a beehive without its brood. Some cables have been left dangling, disconnected. The filament you have would fit perfectly inside the compartment. Like a smooth drawer, the filament slides into place. On the keyboard, the play key starts blinking. A bar of fabric right above the keyboard starts producing a soft hum. The sound of static seeps through the machine's planar magnetic driver. The static gets louder, slowly filling up the abandoned hall, until a voice speaks out, crackling and old, cutting into the air.
Good afternoon. Fortress accident en rue de Saint-Ghislaine. This is East Insulindian Repeater Station 1. Please repeat. Is this the production schedule? The filament you have inserted into the reader. Yes. Is that the production schedule? Good. Please repeat the password.
Password? Of course it would have a password. That's why there's a human administrator involved. You should ask her for a hint.
No.
A hint system is not part of the protocol for repeater stations.
Still no. Received. I will register this login attempt.
Don't worry. Passwords have a way of turning up sooner or later.
Fortress accident. Is there anything else I can do for you today? Fortress Accident is the company on whose name the terminal you are currently using has been registered to. One moment. Fortress Accident SCA produces revolutionary interactive call-in radio games. That's what the catalog says.
That's not bad.
Any other questions? Yes, I am alive. I am 74 years old and my name is Yvonne.
She repeats passwords. Programming people are all paranoid.
I work as a repeater at the East Insulindian repeater station. It's my job to know where you are, Fortress Accident. As for me, well, I am sitting in my cubicle, surrounded by a wall of radios. Now, please tell me if there's anything else I can do, Fortress Accident. Good. Please repeat the password. Received.
Don't worry.
Fortress Accident. Yes.
She repeats passwords. Programming people are all paranoid.
They are merely cautious. It's my job to protect their filaments as a password repeater at the East Insulindian station. I work as for me, well, now. Thank you and goodbye.
Tiles on the cube are still smoldering, casting the framework in a soft glow. Fluorescent play and print keys shine on the keyboard. Nothing happens. This old fireplace is covered in lines. The whole thing resembles Cadran mosaic tiles. Very pedantic.
Okay. What do you think is going on with that computer, chalkboard, and fireplace? No, that's not it. It looks like one of those popular pen and paper role-playing games. Only these people were trying to automate it, make it work on radio computers. Through call-in stations, none of the players have to be physically present. Anyone in the world can participate in the game, as long as they have a two-way radio. Then there's the game master frequency that listens in on the smaller call-in stations. I think that was supposed to coordinate the stories, functioning as a master of ceremonies of sorts.
His fascination has swept aside other concerns for the moment. He's a little hooked.
Not to my knowledge. They make automated games in Grad, Messina, Königstein. You know, places with industry.
Not in Revachol West, among the ruins.
But I don't think anyone has attempted to create an inter-isolary game before. We just don't have the technology. Indeed, those Welkins are a dead giveaway. Role-playing people love that stuff. The world looks like a modified version of the WeWorld board game, with hit death thrown in.
Super cool. Someone should give them millions of real immediately. This game is too good to be left unfinished.
No idea. They stopped filling out the schedule on the chalkboard. Indeed, it's ambitious and untethered from reality, but guess, especially in here. Okay, let's keep.
Your flashlight slides. Some of the writing has faded with.
Oh, it's you again. Are you looking for a die? I'm listening. You mean Mr.
But what drugs exactly?
Anything else? Good. I hope it clarifies. I'm sorry. I'm a bit overloaded just now, so I can only produce one die per customer.
Mm. 難しいね。
Looks like someone tried to reconceptualize their business here. Look, the skis and rotor blades both bear the same slipstream logo. It seems likely that they started out making one, failed to turn a profit, and then pivoted to producing the other. That's a good question. Reality is ruthless.
やっぱアイスクリーム製造機の中になんか隠されてるから出さなきゃいけないのかな。
This orange machine is dead still. It has a hand-cranked ice cream churner and an electric freezer. The ice around it slowly melting.
Save とあれでやる？セーブして失敗したらロードしてってやってできんのかな。
ネムさん、ズルしようとしてる？
しようとしてますね今。どうしよっかな。まあ、とりあえずセーブはしといていいでしょう。一回終わるか。2時間半やったし。
ネムさん、全カつくよ。
確かに。一回2時間半やったんでちょっと終わっときますわ。だいぶ英語。
ネムさん、内定取り消しかも。
あーまずいなそれ。 やばいな。何より親をがっかりさせちゃうわそれ。
ネムさん、お疲れ様。
はい、お疲れ様でした。じゃあまたやるんでね、見に来てください。じゃあお疲れ様でした。